Hi, welcome to Tech Talks, the People and Planet podcast. On this episode, I'm joined by Chris Monk, the COO of online education platform Rite of Passage. Hi, Chris. How's things?
Hey, yeah, really good. Thanks. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure this one's going to be super interesting. Keen to get your insights, and I'm sure the listeners are as well. So let's start at the beginning then. Rite of Passage. Talk to us a little bit more about the mission, what problem it is that you're solving, what's inspired it.
Yeah, so Rite of Passage was created by David Perel. David's story is fascinating. He didn't do super well at college. He never really found traditional education work for him. He left college, went through a couple of iterations, and then he discovered the superpower of writing online. Started writing online, started publishing his ideas, and found that his life completely changed. He found that he was interacting with completely different people. He elevated his life essentially by writing online and sharing ideas. And then he started looking around about how he could share writing online and the power of writing online with people. And there was nothing out there. There were no courses. People weren't even really talking about it as a thing. You know, social media and influencers was a thing, but the power of writing online wasn't really understood by anyone. So David set about creating the course that he wished he'd been able to go on, which is all about the power of writing online and then how to do that more engagingly and more effectively as well. Started like any product-led startup. They ran the first cohort. I think they had about 50 people in it to start with, and then 10 people in it by the end of that cohort. But then they tested, they learned, they carried on iterating, they found out what people wanted. And since then, we've now we've taught about 2,000 students from all over the world, and really seen them start to change their lives by writing online as well.
Brilliant. Yeah, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because as you say, it's, a lot of things at the moment are very much social media based, are very much influencer based, but writing online has got so many benefits to so many different people, for different purposes as well. That would be fair to say, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know, whether you're a student, whether to get into employment, for example, or
yeah, what's better, or even to get into college. You know, if you're a student in the US. In the US, especially, the college essay is this big thing that students need to do. Instead of writing that 1,500-word essay, if you can say to your college, here's 100 essays that I've written over the past 3 years about different ideas that have reached thousands of people around the world, and it's meant that these people have commented and engaged. And actually, I've got a newsletter that 25,000 people every week want to hear my writing. Colleges are going to say, wow, you just that 1,500-word letter that you got over there. And that doesn't mean it's not about social media. You know, when we teach people to write online, that could be Twitter, that could be Twitter threads, that could be writing on LinkedIn, it could be writing on Instagram to share those stories as well. But it's also about going beyond that. So it's about how can you actually think about complex ideas and share those complex ideas by writing online as well.
Yeah, interesting. So how does the course itself work then?
So it's a cohort-based course. David worked with Tiago Forte of Build the Second Brain, which is one of the early cohort-based courses. David met Tiago and they worked together on the first iteration of Rite of Passage. So it's a 5-week online cohort-based course with 10 to 15 live sessions, just depending on which current iteration we're doing it at the moment.
Yeah.
Plus then a whole load of peer-led sessions, mentor groups, writing gyms, CrossFit for writing, deep dives, all of those kind of sessions to bring the community together, as well as then the support of the community in an online platform as well. So our whole thing is we need to get people to publish. Writing is no good if you're only writing for yourself. And so many of our students come to us saying, I've been writing for the last 5 years, but I've never published anything. So what we're all about is getting people to publish. The way we do that is with writing prompts that gets people to write a piece of work. These aren't all 10,000-word essays. They can be 500 words and 1,000 words. We then give them support from a live team of editors. Those editors are based all around the world. So you can write your piece. You can then submit it for editor review. And then you can go to sleep. You wake up in the morning and you've had an editor go through your piece of work, provide loads of feedback, allow you to make those changes. And then you can share it with your peers as well on the course, get further feedback from them. And that will give you the confidence, hopefully to publish that piece. We then take it week by week. And the idea is, in a perfect world, every one of our students by the end of the 5-week program has published 5 pieces of work. really high quality pieces of work that have gained traction, and we've kickstarted them on that journey to becoming an online writer.
Fantastic. Okay. So you guys are still pretty early stage. It's never plain sailing. What challenges have you had to navigate so far?
Everything that a startup goes I think we've been through in different ways, from receiving investment and getting overexcited and trying too many different things all at the same time, which I think every startup organization has done that. And we went too broad and we started trying to do this over here and this over here, and that hurt us. We went through a period where we really saw the impact of that. So over the past quarter, we've gone back, we've narrowed the focus. Frank Slogan talked about, if you want to amp it up, you've got to narrow the focus. If you want to get faster and better, you've got to do it on a narrow board. Given finite resources, given a finite team, you've got to narrow the focus. So we've gone back to that and really focused in on just delivering superb online experiences for our students. We've had the difficulties of hiring too fast, and therefore ending up with the wrong people on the bus. Sure. Having to correct that's really painful whenever you have to do that. And that's on us as a leadership team. It's never right to hire people, and then it's always, I think it's a quote from the thick of it, that if after 2 years we're sacking someone, then that's on them. If after 3 months, it's on us. And there's been a bit too much of that. So we've really had to toughen up our recruitment process, move away from voodoo hiring, move away from doing it on gut feel or because an exciting idea, and really get data driven and analytical in terms of how we recruit people onto that journey. And we've had some failed product lines. We were, like I said last year, one of these things that we went too broad into was to launch a version of our program for high schoolers. Like I mentioned, that college essay, really focusing in on that high school market and how can we present rite of passage for high schoolers. And we tried and we tried and we spent $1 million on trying. And it turns out the high schoolers don't want to do what we're doing. There's just no demand for it. And maybe there is demand, but certainly not at a price point that matches the quality of what we want to do, because this is a boutique almost product that we're offering out there. So we had to kill that. And that was tough. We had to let good people go for no fault of their own, but we just had to decide that product wasn't the right way to go. So all of those sort of difficulties that any startup faces, we've sort of hit product market fit, but it's still trying to get that growth.
Where do you find there is the biggest demand, Chris?
The biggest demand is always a really tricky question to answer. At the moment, as you know, Lee, we're recruiting for a chief revenue officer, and it's one of the questions they ask. They say, "Who's your target customer?"
Yeah.
Go and look at the demographics and the makeup of our cohorts, and it's like, well, this is everyone from 17-year-old college kids up to 70-year-olds who just want to share their ideas that they've been thinking about for the whole time. But we do see a concentration in probably early and mid-stage professionals who have decided that they were made for more than this. I think it's a lot of our people, a lot of our success stories are people who have been or are in those corporate jobs. They're on the ladder, they're working away, they're building up, but they're not finding it rewarding. And they think, I'm made for more than this. They've got more to give. They want to change the people that they're interacting with. And that's where we see, I think, the biggest impact in rite of passage. And those people completely change the trajectory of their careers. We've seen so many of our students leave those jobs through writing online, become lead advocates for very projects and that kind of stuff through writing online, or just become independently employed. We had one guy who had this fascination and this deep insight and knowledge about renewable farming, or regenerative farming, sorry. So that's where you use regenerative farming practices, to ensure that farming is more long-term sustainable. And he had this expertise, but and it was a passion of his, and it was only through writing online that he was able to build an audience. And now he's a consultant. He flies around the world, meeting the people who have found him through his online writing and advising them about these farming practices and how to improve their business. And that all started through writing online.
Yeah, very cool. So it's actually turned what was probably started as a hobby stroke passion into an actual career. So
yeah, and we're seeing
cool.
so many case studies of awesome stuff. There's this high school kid in Austin who I actually met last time over there. We went to visit Alpha School, which is a bit of an innovative education program there, or an innovative high school. And this kid was amazing, and he just knows everything about BMXing and about off-road BMXing and like dirt biking and that kind of stuff, but on pedal bikes. And I remember David Perel, our CEO, asking him, saying, why are there no good bike tracks in Texas? And he said, well, the soil's all wrong. Like, what? And the kid goes, well, yeah, you need 50% loam and you need 25% this, and just sort of reeled off what the soil needs to be like. And he's like, well, and Texas soil isn't like that. It's like this. And so you can't possibly do that. And David was like, what do you want to do about it? He said, well, I want to set up this bike track. I want to import a load of soil so we have the right soil on this place. And then we'll make this bike track that everyone will want to come to. And so Dave said, you need to start writing online about this stuff, right? So he did, built an audience, and he's about to sort out investment for, and this is a kid, he's just approaching 18. This is a kid who's now about to sort out millions of dollars in order to set up his bike track in Texas, because you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You're an expert.
We all have.
Who knew there was so much to BMX biking?
Yeah, I thought you just got a digger and went and made it.
Yeah, you just went for it. Yeah, but no. Yeah, that's the difference between him and us, Chris.
Yeah, that's why he's getting millions.
Yeah, that's why he's getting millions of dollars investment in it. Yeah. So, you guys, then you're very much B2C. You mentioned before that the CRO is the next hire. What's the current approach to sales and marketing? Clearly it's to increase the cohort base. What are you doing around that at the moment?
So, number one, we're doing a lot more of what we've always done. And the way that we've always brought people into Rite of Passage is through David's audience. David Perel has a huge online audience, hundreds of thousands of Twitter followers, tens of thousands of newsletter subscribers. And we're boosting that. We've just launched a podcast, actually, our own podcast. We launched yesterday, How I Write, with David Perel. And that's a fascinating, obviously I'm going to say this, but it is really, really interesting and good. It's where David talks to authors, not about what they've written, but about how they wrote it. So when an author writes a book, they go do the publicity tour, they appear on all these shows, all these podcasts to talk about the contents of their book. So, if I write a book about happiness in the workplace, I then go on the tour and I'm talking about happiness in the workplace. Yeah. No one says to me, why did you want to write the book? They might ask that. Sometimes they go, what's your motivation? It's like, well, I was really unhappy in my workplace and then I got happy. Right, okay. And then they sort of go on to talk about being happy in the workplace and all the tips and tricks in there in order to get people to buy the book.
Yeah.
We say, what made you want to write a book? Well, I was really unhappy in my workplace and I discovered these things. And then they say, then the next question is, okay, but how did you get from being unhappy in your workplace to writing a book? Because there's so much in that we sort of skip over. And people go, I had this idea and then I published a book. And like, no, there's years of angst and all of that goes on in between those two. So this podcast really focuses on amazing writers who have had amazing success and looks at how they got there as being authors. So that's one way that we're pushing.
So just on that, that's going to be on what, the usual channels, Spotify and iTunes and Google and all of that,
and it's all recorded. So it's a video first podcast, actually. So we've got a recording studio in Austin, and David's been on a couple of tours around the US. Was over in London recently, and so it's beautifully recorded. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Apple Podcasts.
So that's called How I Write. So look out for that one. And you mentioned YouTube as well. I've looked at loads of his clips on YouTube, and that's that must have been years worth of content there.
Yeah, so there's loads of David's older stuff on there as well, and then there's new stuff. We've got a world-class recording studio in Austin where we can bring people to. It's absolutely beautiful. We spent a long time thinking about the aesthetics and building it up. We're hoping that How I Write is going to really pull people in to Rite of Passage. David's traditional audience, And then whilst we're waiting for a CRO, myself and our Chief Product Officer, Will, we've been getting marketing. We've been diving into the analytics. We've been looking at the paid spend. We've just launched our affiliate program. We launched that last week, which is really exciting. We've got a team of 47 affiliates who are out there spreading the word of rite of passage. Some of whom have huge audiences, some of whom are just incredibly passionate. We got one or the other of those spectrums. We think that's a really great driver. And then we've got our own list. So we've got our own newsletter lists of tens of thousands of people that will hopefully be converting onto this next cohort, which is what we refer to internally and maybe externally, I don't know, as our Super Bowl cohort, which we hope is going to be the biggest one yet.
Fantastic. So other than that, then what's coming next? What can you share with us?
We're really focusing, we learned our lesson in terms of going too wide too fast. So probably the next year is going to be really just focused on improving the number of people who are on our cohorts. For us, and the beauty of it being a remote and digital experience that we deliver is bigger is better. In traditional education, we always talk about smaller class sizes being better. You can have that closer interaction. We think that's nonsense in the internet age, because you can have one person teaching to 500 people, all of those 500 people getting exactly the same audience experience as if there were 5 people there, if you're doing it remotely, because we have the same experience. And then you can put those 500 people immediately into breakout rooms if you want to, and they can have that intimate 1 to 2, 1 to 3 experience that's going on there. And then we can all come back. I remember I talked about the feedback from your peers. The bigger the cohort, the better the cohort, better the experience. So the focus for now is just growing those cohorts and growing them consistently. Then there's a whole load of exciting areas that we're going to be looking at. The business side of things, we're being approached by businesses all the time saying, we want you to come in and teach our people how to write. There's this weird thing that we write great, exciting stuff in our personal lives and on social media, and then we go to work and we sort of have these boring handcuffs put on us, and you read your onboarding documentation in most companies and you think, who wrote this? I have no interest in reading this. So there's the business side of things, and then there's a really interesting recruitment or outplacement, as we call it, side of things, which is where we can use our student network to place them into roles where people are looking for exceptional writers. We have the ability to identify great writers early on and then make them even better, and then place them into exciting opportunities within organizations that are looking for superb writing talent.
Yes. And what sort of, how long's a piece of string? There's so many different sectors that would need that sort of quality, I think.
If you just think about people who write, Warren Buffett, he writes his investor update letter. Man of his success has been because of his ability to write and his ability to communicate clearly to shareholders. You then go and read read any publicly traded company's shareholder updates or annual report, and oh my god, it's awful. It's just really badly written. It's stultifying and it doesn't inspire anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone to come in to write that about that.
It's boring, isn't it?
Yeah, it will make people excited about being an investor in your business.
Yeah, and we spoke previously, there's so many applications for it in the recruitment sector. A lot of what we do as recruiters is writing online to try and attract prospective talent, right? And the better, the more it's going to cut through all of the noise that's out there and attract the best people. So there's so many different applications.
We get complimented on our job advert.
Yeah, exactly.
And, it's just because we care, because we spend a bit of time thinking about how can we actually write this in a way that makes it sound exciting to work in.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I spend lots and lots of my working day trying to advise on specs and say, look, how is this going to attract people? All it is a shopping list of things that you want.
Yeah.
So, look, Chris, amazing to speak to you. Thanks so much. It's all we've got time for. Guys, this has been Chris Monk, the COO of online education platform Rite of Passage, and we'll stay tuned for your new podcast as well. What's it called again? How we write?
How I Write. So
How
I Write, or even better, David Perel on your usual platforms, and you'll find it and enjoy.
Excellent. Thanks again, Chris.
Cheers, Lee.